Hello, people. Welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a Star Wars podcast where we get to the guts of what makes Star Wars meaningful to us. I'm Alyssa Simmons, and I'm joined today by my pals, Dino Nicandros.
Hello.
And Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And today, we're talking The Mandalorian, Chapter 14, The Tragedy, directed by Robert Rodriguez. And by God, we're Star Wars fans.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Star Wars Inside the Tauntaun. This is our podcast opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, and Dino talking about Star Wars. Like and subscribe.
Oh my gosh.
Tragedy.
I have been waiting for nearly 24 hours
It's been
to talk about this
84
episode.
since
Oh my gosh.
Alyssa was asleep, and
Yeah.
I will read.
never forgive her.
Yes, what did I say to Daniel? She has to nap during the day for the next two. This
That's
is
right.
unacceptable behavior, and I won't stand for it.
Wow, you
We were
guys are
so
a bunch
excited
of
about this
dicks.
episode.
You bunch of dicks.
No, Alyssa is the adult in the room. She goes to
Clearly.
bed at normal hours. She drinks water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's hydrating, which all
She's
you
going to
guys-
live 15 years longer than us, but we had more fun in the moment.
Okay,
so.
I promise.
did.
I promise both of you, and now the people that are listening also have my word that I will
man.
take a midday nap for the next two episodes and
Oh.
watch live with you for the next for the
Oh,
last two.
squee-wee. I mean, listen, the last two episodes, I mean, they're going to be lit AF, so...
We're in a very interesting spot where every week we are now saying this is the best I've seen.
Yeah, what the heck? I mean,
Coming off of last week's episode, I was like, "How are they?" I mean,
How are
we
they?
just got Ahsoka freaking Tano. How are we gonna go on from there?
yeah, how will we
And-
possibly go on? We've gotten legacy characters in like every episode since the past three, right? Like,
Yeah,
whoa,
they said,
whoa,
well, we see your Ahsoka Tano, and we'll one-up you by answering every question you've had thus far.
Right.
Truly, I mean, at least almost. I mean, wow.
Well, right, but pointing us in a actually answering questions for once instead of asking them.
Yeah, the show is hella a lot less vague. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should
We-
have been more emotionally prepared given the title of the episode.
Yeah. Well,
But,
okay. I'm glad
dear
you brought
God
that
in
up
heaven.
too.
No.
Yeah, because wow.
I
Yeah. So
wasn't.
the title was a dead giveaway, but also. Something that we mentioned last night, do you know, I think I need to stop watching the recaps because we know what the fuck is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need a recap.
If you
we're
watched
doing
the
a recap
episode
show as
recap-
we speak, for goodness sake. So.
If you watched the episode recap at the beginning of the episode, it is taken from the end of Chapter 5 of Season 1, The Gunslinger,
Yeah.
where we spent a year speculating, is that boot spur sound? Is that Boba Fett?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And also, like, oh, I wonder what happened to her. Where is she going to show up again? And then...
Why are they showing her dead body? Oh, because she's not dead.
Right. And then, yeah. So it was a dead giveaway, and I wish I hadn't watched it. But even still, like, nothing could
didn't
have
matter.
prepared me for the
It didn't
elation
matter.
that I was about to feel. I mean, I guess maybe, and it's interesting too, because I wish I can go back in time and feel how I would feel about the episode both ways. Because, I mean, knowing that it was about to happen, and the anticipation leading up to it, and then the fulfillment of that, and it actually living up to that, like, for me, was still so magical. I am so happy. I'm so happy.
Well, and the last two episodes had zero scenes in any of the promotional material.
Right.
Right.
So we are flying completely blind now
Yeah.
with only our theories and speculations to guide us.
Which, I mean, guys,
Which
real quick,
round
go ahead and give yourselves a pat on the back.
I'll give everyone as we go along an opportunity to give yourself a serious pat on the back because I think we all hit on some
We nailed it.
pretty big theories.
I mean, we definitely threw out a lot of fish nets, like some big old nets.
We
but
threw everything against the wall.
We
and
did,
some
we
of
did.
it stuck.
Yeah,
So
and at
we're going
least
to
one of
take
them
credit
stuck,
for that.
which is great.
Yeah. It's called hedging your bets.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Exactly. But I think that's pretty dope.
As we said, it was directed by Robert Rodriguez,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed, if you are familiar with this man's
Work.
filmography, he directed Planet Terror, which is an
I am
absolute
obsessed.
violent romp in the style of Quentin Tarantino, which makes complete sense when we dive into this episode.
Yeah, I just
Very
remember
stabby.
like
Very,
very
stabby.
stabby. Like
Very
the
stabby,
most,
very hitty, very stabby, very
some of the
clubby.
most iconic moments from that are the gun leg, like
The
prosti-
M16 gun leg, that's
Uh-huh.
correct.
Gosh.
and also I remember like testicles in a test tube that got stepped on. Yeah,
That
was
is
pretty
correct.
awful. Yeah. Anyway.
I can't believe I've seen this film, but but I have.
Oh yeah, I saw
once
it in.
upon-
I think I saw it in a drive-through, which is the most.
Oh.
That's probably
best
where
way
you
to
should
watch
see it, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was meant for a drive-through.
I'll never see
it
that.
is-
Drive-in,
I
sorry.
was saying
No,
stabby
you are-
as
Alyssa,
in
you-
stabby as in reference to this Mandalorian episode.
Oh my God, yes.
Very stabby.
So violent,
This is as violent as Star Wars has ever gotten.
violent,
And,
and head crushy, and
but he did Planet Terror. He did Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Sin City, From Dusk Till Dawn, and Spy Kids.
Oh, good.
which is the most violent out of all of them.
which
Oh,
is
yeah.
which is the most heinously violent of all of them.
Truly.
He nailed it. We'll
Yeah.
talk about it as we dive deep. But
Wowie. He was given great material, also.
he was
Yeah.
he was given the sandbox to play with.
Mm-hmm. How long? Okay, wait. How long was this episode again?
32
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, so she was real short, but
This is just about as short as
she was
almost
really
as short as we get.
But it still felt longer than the other short episode.
yes.
It did.
I don't think we could have taken much longer of what
No.
was happening in this episode.
It was too
No.
much. It was just too much to handle emotion.
I wouldn't have survived the 55-minute runtime of episode 1 if it was like
Nope,
this.
no way.
Yeah. Holy moly. So shall we get into it?
Let's
or-
dive
go.
right in. And
Yeah.
right off the top, I'm glad they're wasting no time. We're
Yeah.
going straight to
Again.
Tauntaun.
Here we go.
Wasting no time.
It's like we're going. So we get this great scene.
This is what happens when you let the director just, use as much as there is material instead of saying it has to be 45 minutes long, so stretch it out if you gotta. You know what I mean? That's when you get wasted time. This
Right.
is just
There's no wasted breath.
yeah,
here.
it's beautiful.
So we start in the cockpit of the Razor Crest, and we are flying to Tauntaun, and we get a great little
Which rhymes with
exchange
Python.
between little baby Grogu
Boop boop.
and Daddy Mando, and he's attempting to train him.
So cute.
Like
In
a
a way,
good dad.
So cute.
Yeah, Grogu's playing with the ball,
Yeah,
the
he's
little
playing
knob
catch
at the
with his-
top of the
with his
lever.
son.
He's infatuated with, and Mando takes great delight in saying his name and seeing a response.
Oh my God, his giggle, that was
So
very sweet.
cute.
Yeah, adorable.
Like he basically said like tee hee, more or less.
Yeah. Mando's cold exterior has been shattered by the child,
Yeah, and I love that.
and it's a really sweet, poignant, fatherly moment because
Yeah.
he explains to him, and we don't know how much Grogu understands
Mhm.
yet. We know he understands some things, but like his name, that's all I can confirm. But he explains to him, he's like, I'm taking you to where Ahsoka told us to go. We're going to find a Jedi, and they'll take care of you.
Right.
And he says, you're very special, kid.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, it's going to be that kind of episode.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going there. And it just seems that they're setting up that conversation again about the connection between the two of them and
Right.
how it's going to, potentially be his, his weakness.
Undoing.
His undoing, yes. but I hope that they prove him wrong, and they're like, through the power of fatherly son love, they triumphed. But we'll see.
Well, and again, it just boils down to I don't know how much Grogu understands, but you can tell he's very content to just be with his dad.
yeah,
he's-
in his ball.
His ball and his dad.
A simple life.
A simple life. Would that all of our lives were so simple.
Truly.
So we enter the atmosphere of Tauntaun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't research this.
But-
I know they're shooting The Mandalorian in Orange County, mostly.
Wait, is that right? I actually did
Yes.
not know that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in studio or also
yes,
not in
yes.
studio?
Well, some is outdoors, but the volume studio is also down there.
Wow, I did not know
We gotta
that.
look for it.
That
Yeah, let's go.
Tauntaun looked a lot like the San Gabriel Mountains.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Or the
for
Santa
sure.
Monica Mountains,
Yeah,
or
uh-huh.
I was like, I've been hiking there somewhere.
yeah, it did look very familiar. Uh-huh.
Those looked like Southern California
For sure.
mountains,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny. But we approach and we see the ruins of the Jedi Temple that Ahsoka was referencing, and it looks like a Stonehenge kind of
Yeah,
arrangement.
huge leaning stones in towards the center sepulcher.
Right, with the seeing stone in the middle,
Very ancient.
which Grogu is supposedly supposed to sit on. And Mando remarks, it's too narrow to land, it's too small a target, so we're going to have to, as he put it, travel the last stretch with the windows down.
Which is
Cut to him with the jetpack and Baby Yoda's ears flapping
like a
in the
little
wind,
puppy going.
enjoying the hell out of himself. So great. Cute.
So cute.
And we land on this temple area. He proceeds to place Grogu on top of the seeing stone.
he's like
And
looking
it-
for a
It's like,
mechanism.
and what now?
Yeah, he's like,
like,
there's got to be a button or something.
What does this
Yeah,
mean?
he's
Do
looking
they
for a
see you
button.
or do you see
There's
them?
gotta be
There's got to be a
some-
button somewhere on this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and of course, it feels like, like dad's trying to. This is very typical dad. Like, here, I'll do it. Let me help you. And you're like,
Right. It's like, all right,
Then-
kid, do your thing.
yeah.
He's just looking at him and he's playing with butterflies. And he's like, come on, for God's sake. Okay, so we're not 3 minutes in,
Yeah. Uh huh.
4 minutes in.
Uh huh.
And you like the lightning before the thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of reverse. You hear the sound before you actually see it. It's completely the opposite. But you hear the sound of a ship flying overhead, and I already knew.
Familiar.
And we see Slave One, the
Ugh, what a dream.
famous ship
We all were like,
of one Boba Fett.
because we've even talked about this already. Like, does Slave One still exist?
Yeah,
Is he in ownership
right.
of it? Like, and there.
Well, I guess when he
effing
climbed
was.
out of the Sarlacc, it was still parked at Jabba's palace.
I
so
guess so. And apparently he had he had a car alarm on, and
Right.
nobody thought to take it.
right.
It's great.
The sound design for that ship, I've always loved it. It was
Mhm.
so great hearing it.
It's very specific. Yep.
It's such a cool looking
Oh, so cool.
vehicle.
Yeah, the way it's flown, is very
Oh
very
my
unique and
Good
cool.
God.
Uh huh.
So it lands. We immediately assume trouble here.
Yep.
Um,
Well, because and maybe again, this is why they named, they titled the episode the way that they did, because automatically I'm thinking, oh, here he comes to cause the tragedy.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
that was where my mind went first.
right.
But they took us on another ride.
They did. They took us on another.
And so Mando kind of panics. He's like, "Time's up, kid. We gotta go." He uses his kind of internal binoculars in his helmet, looks down at Slave One, sees someone walk out. We're like, "We gotta go. We gotta go." He turns around. There is now a force field of energy
He's like,
surrounding the
what,
child.
what?
His eyes are closed, and he is clearly activated to the Seeing Stone.
Oh,
and
he's
for
doing
what
his little
purpose?
meditation fingers too, which is
Yes.
so cute.
He also looked like
And for
so
what purpose?
much more grown up when he was meditating.
He did.
He
Yeah.
really looked a lot
totally
like
did.
Yoda.
Like for like I think out of this is the most Yoda he's ever
Yeah.
looked like. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Well, because it's that, that meditating.
Yes.
Right.
Wise beyond
And
his
he's
years.
we're getting bigger and bigger glimpses of this kid's power.
Mm-hmm.
And for what purpose this is all happening, we still don't know. Was he communing with someone, or was he simply
Just reaching out.
looking out into the Force? Is it kind of a beacon for others to... Is he doing the searching, or is he making himself available to be found?
Yeah, right. Is he just like a beacon that's like
And who would answer that call? Because
Right.
presumably if it's through the Force, it could be anyone who has access to the Force.
Yeah.
correct? It could be somebody from the dark side.
could be
too,
someone
which we
not
didn't
great.
talk
Portal
about
itself
before.
reminded me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender and also Legend of Korra.
Yes.
Because into the spirit,
Oh, yeah.
spirit
Mhm.
realms,
Uh-huh,
that's what they look like. That sort of like.
Which again, Filoni. Definitely
And also,
a part of.
yes, correct.
Mhm.
And also a kind of a Doctor Strange concept. If perhaps the child was looking into different possibilities
Mm-hmm.
or looking down certain paths, if I went this direction, I don't know if he's self-aware enough yet to do that.
Sure. Well, but yeah, you're right because Yoda did really have the
Some
foreknowledge.
foresight.
And
Yeah, uh-huh.
and it was blue. The energy field
Yes.
was blue. So there's something there.
yep.
Well, it was, and okay. So last episode we talked about the possibility of Cal Kestis
Yes.
perhaps stepping out of the video game realm and
Mhm.
into this story.
Everybody's favorite.
This
Ginger
Seeing
Jedi.
Stone looked, and the writing on said Seeing Stone looked a hell of a lot like the runes you see all throughout
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looked
sure,
a lot.
of the, like,
this
the
whole
ancient
episode,
Jedi,
actually. I mean,
yeah.
I've said it several times during this season of Mando, but especially when in a moment when we get all the troopers running through, that felt very,
Mhm.
very Fallen Order to me.
Sorry, this is not accidental.
Oh, not
No,
at all.
I don't think you're right.
It's
Not at all.
there's some synergy going on here.
Ooh, Synergy.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave that little nugget there for now. So Mando is like, okay, we're out of time. You can't do this. So he tries to reach into the force field, which that's brave,
Yeah.
but stupid.
Stupid, right?
And it forces him back. It throws him back.
Oh, use that force.
Everybody drink. So Mando tells the kid, okay, I'll buy you time, do your thing, having no idea how long it could take.
Mm-hmm.
So Mando goes down into the ravine, and he's kind of walking between these rocks, and then gunfire opens up, and he hides behind a rock. And then we hear a very familiar voice, unmistakable voice, of Temuera Morrison, Boba Fett.
Oh man.
I'm so glad he's
That-
back. I'm so glad it wasn't just a
that
little
Maori
appearance in first episode.
God of a man.
Yeah.
And I have to say the Kiwi accent, and particularly kind of his Maori heritage,
Yep.
it's such a thrilling accent to listen to.
Yeah.
And his voice is
It's a fantastic voice. Yeah.
amazing.
Well, it's
Gruff.
Just, it's unique
and
too.
It's
know?
unique.
It's
yeah,
very uniquely him. Yeah. Huh.
yeah. He's a much scarier Taika Waititi. they share the same
Yeah,
heritage,
uh-huh.
but it's a much. I've always been in love with his voice, and to hear it again.
Why don't you marry it?
Okay,
Fine, I'm gonna
Fine.
marry a voice.
Brown
fine. I'm sure
chicken,
that's
brown
legal in New
cow.
Zealand. And he says, "I've been tracking you, Mandalorian," and you get a blast of a didgeridoo, which is now
Yeah.
officially part of Boba Fett's
Which is
theme,
awesome.
which works on
Yeah.
so many levels. It sounds very, in a way, it's kind of got that Western feel, but
Totally.
more importantly, it reflects Temuera Morrison's
Mm-hmm.
Neck of the woods.
background.
Yeah. Right.
which is so cool. I was
Yeah.
like, it's just kind of building it into the character of Boba, who we didn't have a ton to go off of.
Totally.
So the didgeridoo is a nice ad.
Which after
Well
this
done,
episode, we have
Ludwig Göransson.
a lot to go off of
Yeah.
now.
And Boba's still in his kind of Tuscan robes. He's got the gaffy stick and the long rifle on his back. And we learn that Boba says, give me the armor.
Right.
And Mando's like, oh, you're going to have to take it off my dead body.
Yeah, he's like,
Jerk."
no, not that
That's
armor, you
one
idiot.
No, I don't want that armor. I want my armor.
Your armor's gross. Ugh, I don't want it.
He's like, well, it belongs to a Mandalorian. Are you a Mandalorian? And he drops the line, I'm a simple man making my way through the galaxy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a callback to Django
Mm-hmm.
on Kamino when Kenobi confronts him and he says, I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
Yeah. Like father, like son.
No, we're back in
Yes.
the woods again.
And I love it that they're already
Back to Into the Woods. It's always an Into the Woods reference.
my word.
I really love that musical.
Into the woods. But I love that they're already establishing motivation
Yeah. Uh-huh.
already. That the armor isn't just something that belongs to him. It belonged to his father, of
Yep.
course, which we already knew. But he explains that it belonged to my father, Django.
Yeah.
And
But
it
again,
now,
doing a great job. If this is your very first window into Star
Right.
Wars,
Right.
like, here's a door. Yeah, exactly.
and the armor has some spiritual significance to him.
Sure.
It's a he inherited. It's his inheritance.
Yeah.
from
Very
his
special.
late
It's like
father.
all he has of his father. I mean, other than his genes, I guess.
And Mando's like, well, why don't I? What's stopping me from dropping you right here, right now? And he said, well, because I have a buddy who is ready to open fire if you do that. And we look up,
Oh, I
and
remember
there
that
is
face.
Fennec
Is-
Shand, alive and well, played by Ming-Na Wen. And she doesn't have her rifle trained on Mando. She has it trained on Baby Yoda.
Yep.
Grogu.
Excuse me,
Smart
Grogu.
cookies.
Excuse me. Baby Yoda is dead.
Grogu.
And I love it. You kind of have a Mexican standoff here, where
Yes.
they're all it's just a prisoner's dilemma. Everybody's got a gun pointed somewhere, and Boba's like, "Let's have a chat. There's no need for bloodshed."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'll put down the rifle if you put down the jetpack.
Really quick, what's the swear that they keep on using in the show? Isn't
I looked it up. Dink Fennec.
Dink.
Is that
yeah,
what he
right?
said?
I was gonna say, doesn't it have
Or
the
Dink
word Fennec
Ferric?
in it?
It wasn't Fennec. It was Ferric. Maybe
Okay, maybe that's why I'm getting confused because it does sound
Dink
like
Ferric?
I'll look it up.
and I'm like, is her name a swear word? It's like her parents
Yeah,
were
I don't-
either really like a bunch of assholes or just like
Yeah.
had a really great sense of humor.
Dank Ferric.
Oh,
Dank
Ferric.
Ferric.
There you go.
Ferric. Dank Ferric.
Dank Ferric.
Oh, Dank Ferric. I love
Son of
that.
a
I love
Dank
that they gave them
A thing.
a universal curse word.
Yes, it's great.
Because if I lived in the Star Wars galaxy, it would be F-bombs
All over the place.
on the
right.
regular.
And by F-bomb, you mean
Or
Ferric.
frag.
Yeah.
Or
Frag.
fraggin'. Yeah, right. Frag.
Flag 'em, blag 'em. So he tells him, I'll put down the gun, you put down the jetpack, which once he puts down the jetpack, I don't know about you two, I was like,
Oh,
oh,
that was a
God.
bad idea.
No, felt very bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, guys, no, keep the jetpack on.
Yep.
So Fennec comes down and she's like, yo, I guess it looks like you've seen a ghost. He's like, well, you were dead. And Boba drops a really existential line. And he says, fate sometimes steps in to rescue the wretched.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. We were
Yeah.
both left for dead on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's been waiting
Fennec,
to say that to somebody.
Been
yes.
in his
He's like,
back
I've been practicing this
pocket
line.
as he's been walking through the
I've
desert
been practicing
for
this line.
years.
It's definitely
Yeah.
been written in his journal
I
over and
can't
over
wait
again.
to be around
Yeah.
Fate
someone.
sometimes steps in to rescue the wretched.
No, that was
Oh,
too
I
light.
gotta
I
do
gotta
a
do a
little
little
bit-
darker.
A little bit gruffer. Okay.
Right. And Fennec reveals that Boba saved her, and she pulls away part of her tunic and she has this gnarly cybernetic implant in her stomach that looks like it's pumping, like there's a pump in there or something.
Like,
it's like, who did that? Was that Boba? And well done.
Wow,
well done.
It looks like her, like basically her entire mid-half innards are completely replaced by.
Yeah, she's
robotics.
a cyborg now.
Cyborgs. Don't get as wet.
But she says since Boba saved me, I'm now in his service. And I kind of, I don't know if there's much of a parallel there, but if you remember in Attack of the Clones, if you think back, Jango ran with a female bounty hunter named Zam Wesell. And she's in the movie very brief. She's in the chase scene. She tries to assassinate Padme at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yes.
But it's cool that they're kind of setting up
parallel to that.
A parallel dynamic
totally,
between these two partners, which is kind of cool. So he says, you give me the armor, we'll help you protect the child.
So
which is an interesting turn of events that Boba's interested in negotiating.
Right.
Totally, I was going to say, yeah.
Knowing what we know about him and his dad, it's like, well, these are very scary bounty hunters, and they're not really game for compromise.
He's like, I don't owe anybody anything, you know.
But he said, yeah, we'll make that exchange, and he said that sounds like a pretty good offer, all things considered.
I mean, I the only thing that makes me think that sorry, I'm gonna restart. I just think that maybe he sees the Mandalorian as not as an equal, but just like, this would be a really tough and probably unnecessary fight. Let me offer him something.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking at him clad in Beskar.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, there's no way I kill you. But I also, and they do get to this point, I do think there's already a built-in level of respect.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, yeah, because he watched him.
For the reason we'll explain.
He watched him being eaten by a dragon and then coming out alive.
That's true. He's well aware that this guy is.
They hold that in common, that they both escaped from giant sand monsters.
So they make this agreement, and then we look up in the sky, and a ship has entered the atmosphere, an Imperial dropship.
Retro.
Which looks like a precursor to the ones you see in Force Awakens.
I was just going to say
right
that,
at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So an Imperial troop dropship. And it lands, and Mando takes off back up the mountain without the jetpack. Without the freaking jetpack, dude.
Damn.
And he gets up there, and the child is still meditating behind the field, and Mando tries to break in again.
Gets thrown back again.
Fails a second time, gets thrown back, gets knocked out. And in my notes next, this is what I have. Boba and Fennec fuck up troopers.
Yeah, to say the least.
Which is about. I apologize for the swearing, but that's just kind of
it's what happened.
What this episode was, and that's
it's showing like,
all the creative ways I can kill these people.
Oh my god! I mean, we knew he was obviously a very skilled fighter, and
she's a great marksman.
Yeah,
a marksman.
Totally. But I think that it just like the ferocity.
The coolest shot.
The
coolest shot was her jumping backwards off of that rock.
Oh yeah, that was a dope moment.
Shooting two troopers like mid-air and then like back somersaulting to stand up and then kill like two more troopers. I was just like,
very cool.
Wow.
Well, I mean, she's got the equivalent of a sniper rifle. I mean, it's more like an assault rifle, but she's got the equivalent of a sniper rifles and running around shooting people like 15 feet away. It's like, oh, this is so great. So she's up covering him, and Boba pulls out his gaffy stick, which previously we saw cleaning the teeth of a bantha.
Right, but apparently is a
but this
very
spike on the
weapon.
end of a gaffy, the spike on the end of gaffy sticks has a much more nefarious purpose.
Oh my god!
And I also wrote this down. It's the most violent Star Wars we've seen yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Robert Rodriguez. This is Robert Rodriguez, Grindhouse.
We saw helmets being literally shattered, which was like
Which we saw a bit of that with. It reminded me of Chirrut in Rogue One with his staff.
Sure.
But he was so graceful.
This was
pure,
really violent.
unadulterated rage.
Just rage, totally. Like it was fast and furious, and
and contorting their bodies, and like you said, smashing their helmets, and then they'd show stormtroopers on the ground.
That one shot was awful.
It kind of.
Oh
my God!
Yes,
With his
and
face
his
smashed in. Oh my God! Yikes!
Yeah, it was very.
Whoops.
And they'd cut to these shots of Boba turning to the camera, and just this
the
visceral
scowl.
rage, and scowl.
It really adds a lot of depth to his character because we really didn't see much of his face in the other films, obviously. But
and we have Django to go off of, but we know Django is really good with the pistols and
he was always very cold and just pretty calm.
But we never saw rage.
This like it shows it like the fact that he's been that he was trapped inside of a giant sand monster for a long time, and that he got out, and he was like he's been seeking vengeance like almost in his entire life, like that building up over time and not really ever being able to fulfill that, like it just, you can see that in his eyes, like he's just using his anger in order to it was terrifying to watch. Very cool.
Well, and there was a great shot of him dragging the gaffy stick on the ground.
Yes,
it reminded me of the Grim Reaper for some reason. He drags it and picks it up and just slices it across the helmet.
But like more horror film, film tropes, like because how they use, like we were talking about it in with the Ahsoka Tano episode too. Like they're using definite like horror film things.
Right.
It's great.
So we then get to see a new class of Imperial Stormtrooper, the Mortar Troopers, who are firing off these small artillery into the cliff to kill
And they're
Fennec.
from the second,
which actually is so funny. It's like it's
ship,
probably the
right.
Yes,
Because at that point they had pretty much already killed all the
maybe?
troopers from the first ship.
Yeah, that could be. I think so. I just remember...
Yes. Well, there was a mortar guy, a mortar crew on the first ship, and then on the second ship drops.
They brought out the big gun.
Well, no, actually, first there was. I'm trying to remember the order. Oh, one of the best shots of the episode. So she's running along the ridge line, and they're shooting at her with the E-Web cannon that they set up. We've seen these a couple times in Empire Strikes Back and last season. And she gets kind of caught behind a boulder, and a mortar knocks the boulder kind of loose, and so she gets behind the boulder and
does the decline
power
leg
of
press
strength and her
and
does the decline leg press with her new robotic abdomen and kicks the rock down the hill, and then we go full Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So great.
As the boulder comes flying down the hill, just crushing stormtroopers, takes out the cannon.
I will say though, it was kind of a little bit of an Austin Powers moment with the guy on the gun, because like that boulder, like he had a solid 5 seconds to like get out of the way, and he's just like, I'm gonna keep shooting.
Yeah, I guess he thought he could blow it up, but
yeah, whoops.
He is now passed away, but I will not be giving
him.
this one a wake.
And if you've never seen Austin Powers, I'm talking about the moment where there's like a steamroller that's like heading towards this guard.
It takes like 5 minutes to get to him.
No!
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, a second dropship lands, and then this is when the shot Alyssa was talking about, the great jumping backwards off the rock.
That was the coolest part of that whole thing.
Shooting people and
so dope.
And
also,
she's
I was gonna say that weapon with the that like thing where they drop the bomb in and then it shoots it up. That's like the most.
That's a mortar.
The mortar, yes, thank you. It's the like seemingly like the most non-futuristic looking weapon that they've
that's
used.
that's straight World War II.
Yeah, totally, exactly. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's stuff we use all the time.
Yeah, right.
Interesting. So Fennec's surrounded. There are lots of troops, reinforcements from the second dropship that lands. Mando sees this. For a third time, he tries to get through to Grogu, no go. And so he says,
no go.
"Okay, I'll protect you. That's
I got your back.
all we got." So
And his timing could
It was
not be
terrible timing.
more terrible.
it could not be worse. He says, "I'll protect him." Not 10 seconds later,
He comes out of it.
Grogu finishes
Conks out.
meditating and passes out, as he always does from the exertion. And I already had a pit in my stomach at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, he's vulnerable. Meanwhile, down in the valley, Mando and Fennec are effing up some stormtroopers. We get to see the whistling birds again, which are his little wrist arrows,
so cool.
rockets.
Super dope.
And he's just a friggin' tank.
Yeah.
He's surrounded, and they're all shooting at him, and it just doesn't matter. Ding, 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 ding. And a part we missed before this happened, amidst all the violence Boba was committing on the stormtroopers, he glances over and sees the Razor Crest.
Yes.
And they make a point to show him seeing it.
Yeah.
And we
I'm
know
like,
his
"Oop,
armor
I know
is
what
in
he
there.
wants to get.
So we cut back to here. Mando and Fennec are firing at the troopers. And then we see a grenade land from the sky. Explodes, kills a few of them. You hear a jetpack. You see a guy land. And then I screamed. The stormtrooper turns around. You get a didgeridoo, just loud blast. And there's Boba in his armor. Just slaps the guy across the face.
Man, that was sexy.
And then you basically get a comic book. I mean, this is what I had texted I think Alyssa earlier today and said this was Star Wars porn, which was just everything you imagined Boba Fett being able to do just by looking at him. He does it in about 15 seconds.
Yes.
He's got his wrist
Can you
blaster.
show us all your bells and whistles? Like he was like
Do you have your best
auditioning for
16
us,
bar
you know?
cut?
Right. He's like,
And
yeah.
go.
Do you have
Yeah. Can you do fan kicks?
right?
Great.
It says here on your resume you have knee darts. Could
Yeah.
we
Can
see
we
some
the
of
knee
those?
darts, please?
It's like, oh yeah, I could show you some knee darts and a wrist blaster, and then maybe I'll launch somebody with my wrist rocket.
Yeah.
And he does that too.
I could do a round off back handspring into the splits. Do you want me to do
Right. And he's so good at it
We're
that the
good.
troopers are like, no, we're not going to do
that?
this.
I
so
love how scared they got.
Yeah.
They're going,
they, all
Abort,
of them
abort.
run
yes.
and climb into the ship. And there's a great shot of the ship's leaving, and
Yes.
one of the stormtroopers is struggling to get in, and they close the door. And
Get in.
so off they go, and Boba
You almost feel sorry
calmly
for him. Almost.
calmly walks up to walks into place and puts down his little antenna on his visor and fires off a rocket, and it detonates on
Crashes
one of
into
the
the other
ships,
ship.
which then collides into the other ship. And as is so customary and just so important, he
Yes.
turns around before the explosion.
Of course. You
Faces
can't-
the camera
he's not gonna
because
watch
tough
it
guys don't watch things explode.
Yeah.
But
he
then
knows he got it.
in typical Star Wars fashion, we get like a sort of like, jokey, snarky line directly after where Mando says,
So funny.
"Wow, nice shot," and
Nice shot.
Boba Fett says, "I was aiming at the other ship."
Yeah, it was really funny. That was
And
great.
I think Daniel, you remarked on this, but Tamara Morrison is bigger.
Yeah, he's
Oh, yeah.
thicker.
He's a thick man.
Yeah.
And I'm
Beefy.
glad. And the armor looks a little smaller on him, but
Yeah.
I love that
Right.
they didn't change anything about it.
Yeah, because
That-
they could have easily
older,
resized it, to make it look like he's always been this size, which I think would have been, people would have commented on that and been like, that's fake.
Yeah,
and
right.
so this was great attention to detail. That he's an older man now, and he's a different sized person, and
Well, he just look. I mean, as we saw, he's thicker in the sense that he could probably just snap somebody in half.
yeah, he's a raging
Like
barbarian. Yeah, he's a giant.
And I love his new getup. I liked
Yeah,
the
that looks
armor
so
over like his
cool.
Tuscan robes. That's
looks
kind of
very
a really
samurai.
cool
It's a
look
very
with
cool
it.
look.
For sure.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Armor
exactly.
on top of the skirt
Yeah, it's
was
it's
really
an
cool looking.
it's the new Boba. Yeah.
So we can't even take a breath before we see a giant laser bolt from the sky,
Oh man.
which destroys the Razor Crest. blows the Razor Crest to smithereens.
Yeah, wow. I
Nothing
was like,
left.
let's see them fix this.
Yeah,
They
let's see
fixed
your
the-
Mon Cala.
They fixed
Let's
that
see
ship
the
12,000
Mon Cala
times.
Sweater.
Let's see the Mon Cala with the
give this a
sweater fix
whirl.
this one.
Oh.
You know what, though?
or
At this
you,
point
Amy.
in this show, I mean, it's kind of a running gag almost. I feel
It's
like,
like-
they're somehow going to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, Amy Sedaris and our Mon
Gonna
Cala
collect
friend
all
are
the
going to have to
dust
figure this out.
from the explosion. Just
Right.
Yeah, we're
Right,
going to
and
get
piece it
another
back together
fixing
like a puzzle.
montage, and it's going to be fixed in less than a couple minutes. And yeah, and you're going
So-
to...
So Boba quickly flies back to Slave One, and Mando looks up into the sky with his thermal vision and sees Moff Gideon's light cruiser.
Oh, balls.
And we're like, okay,
That's the first time
It-
that they've seen it.
the time has come. The shit is hitting the fan.
Mhm.
So he goes back for the kid without the
Just
jetpack
running.
again.
Again.
up the mountain.
I know, I was screaming that. I was like, use your jetpack, you idiot!
And so we cut to the bridge of the light cruiser, and Moff Gideon asks, "Have the Dark Troopers been deployed?"
Yeah, wow. So,
Yep.
again, another
I mean, we
confirmation.
were-
Like,
Prepared for that.
dead on. Yep. Yeah,
They are
right.
just lovingly going into the expanded universe and
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Mine now," and we got the Iron Man
Of Iron
equivalent,
Man.
Whew.
or
Yep.
the Star Wars equivalent of Iron Man.
Yeah.
This was all Jon Favreau.
Yeah, 100%.
These black robotic stormtroopers
Yep.
that can fly.
With the red eyes.
They reminded me, if you've seen some of the X-Men movies, they reminded me of the Sentinel robots, the mutant hunting robots from
And
those.
you guys haven't
Just
seen it, but I
scary.
think I've told you to watch it. But the little bit of Battlestar
we haven't
Galactica
watched
as well.
that yet.
Yeah, just
You should watch it.
I haven't
It's
watched
good.
it yet. I will. So they take off from the ship, and they head down to capture the child. And they are successful in this endeavor.
They
And
are very spooky.
The cry from the child when they grab him
Oh.
will live in my memory.
And
for
he's
a very
already too
long
tired,
time.
Can't
so he
fight back or
like,
anything.
take
Yeah,
care of
he's
himself
exhausted.
right
He
now.
can't. You're right. He looks at. He wakes up just as they
Yeah. Poor guy.
show up, and he tries to kind of.
And we haven't even seen this. Was we all we know now about these dark troopers is that they can fly, which is horrifying.
Which is enough.
But yeah, we don't know what these things are even capable of yet, and I'm already terrified.
And to answer Finn's question from The Rise of Skywalker,
Mhm.
yes, they do fly now.
They do.
They've
Oh,
been
boy.
flying for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So they take off with the child. We then see Boba in Slave One pursue them, thinking, okay,
He's really
wow, Boba's gonna
he's holding,
save the kid.
holding
This
to
is
his
an
word,
interesting
yeah.
development. He's
Yeah.
gonna save the kid. And he's ready to blow him out of the sky, but they Mando and Fennec call him off because we can't risk hurting the child.
Right. And
And
he's
so
like,
Boba
oh, okay,
says,
sure.
well, so I'll loosely pursue them, kind of check out where they're going. And then Boba, in his ship, comes into contact with the light cruiser, and he
Abort.
remarks that
Abort.
they're back.
Ooh, that
The-
just
the
gave
Empire
me
is
the
back
worst
and-
chills ever when he said that. Fennec was like, "How can that be? How?"
And Fennec drops a little world building. It's like, well, the
Yeah.
Outer Rim is under New Republic jurisdiction. That's impossible.
This is
And
the
it's like, well,
Empire.
I'm looking at it with my
Yeah.
own eyes. They're
Oof.
here. And so he breaks off, and then the cruiser jumps into hyperspace while still in the atmosphere, which is interesting. They've in canon, they've always cautioned against doing that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that
Desperate
seemed
times,
like a
though, I
very
guess.
reckless maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
We then cut to just an awful scene of Mando sifting through the ruins of the Razor Crest.
Ugh.
And you have a really morose and tragic rendition of the show's theme song
Yeah.
kind of playing as he's sifting through it. And he finds
Some Death Star knob.
the ball.
The Death Star ball. Oh.
Finds the knob survived, which is just crushing, and he puts it in his pocket. And then he finds the Beskar spear. And those are the only two things to survive. And
Yeah.
that if that's not some symbolism for you. And he's got his ball, and he's got his spear,
Yeah.
and that's all he needs.
That's it, I guess.
And he approaches Boba, and Boba remarks about the spear, and then he pulls up kind of a data pad in his suit, and it's the chain code which bounty hunters, I guess, attach to their armor. He said, "This is my chain code. It's been in here for 25 years.
There's my father's name. Yeah. There's my name."
Yeah, and it's here that they canonize the fact that Jango Fett was a Mandalorian foundling.
Which is so cool. I love that.
And he fought in the Mandalorian Civil War.
Like, wow.
Which makes Boba the rightful heir to those to that armor. And previously,
but also just explains fighting in the Civil War, it just adds a lot of depth to both of their characters, Jango and Boba.
Well, and we know Jango wasn't a part of Death Squadron
Death Watch.
Death Watch, excuse me, not Death Squadron. He wasn't a part of Death Watch because he removes his helmet.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that, I don't know how relevant that is, but we know he and Mando wouldn't have been from the same tribe. And it's really interesting because in old canon, and I thought immediately to, on PlayStation 2, there was a video game that came out not long after Attack of the Clones called Bounty Hunter, and you played as Jango Fett.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of filled in his backstory,
but I knew of it.
All the way up to the point of doing a job for Count Dooku.
Oh, right.
And then agreeing to go with him to be cloned and whatnot. But we learned that he had Mandalorian heritage, and but then once that
is
was
that still canon?
Well, it is now. I mean, that game isn't anymore.
Sure,
but they've basically taken that backstory and reinstated it. So yeah, in a way, yes, that's a roundabout way of saying yes.
Apparently, Dave Filoni was just like, "Yep, that's what the story is. That's it."
So Jango is officially a Mandalorian, and the armor belongs to Boba, which is just great for all of us who love that deep diving,
and it has now made Boba Fett seemingly this really complicated character.
Right, and I've seen people remark that Boba went from being the most overrated character in Star Wars because he was just cool armor that had a jetpack malfunction and died.
Right.
He went from that to being maybe one of the most underrated, and I kind of want to see what's going on there now.
Totally. I mean, and it's really, again, all thanks to Dave Filoni, because I mean, he obviously really loved that character too, and he's just like, I'm gonna write this character and make him really deep.
And so he thanks Mando for the armor and returning it, and Mando says, "Well, I guess that concludes our business." And Boba says, "Well, not quite. I told you we would, if I got the armor, I'd help you protect the child." And I said, "Well, the child's gone." It's like, "Well, I'm in debt to you until we return him to you safely."
Yeah, which two things about that. The fact that the Mandalorian is already he's already at the point where the child is gone and almost seemingly giving up. Maybe not giving up, but just thinking that the child is basically dead now. But then also the Boba's now a person who lives up to his word. I literally half expected when he looked over at the Razor Crest, I was like, oh, he's just gonna take the armor and then leave.
And then blow up the ship or something.
Yeah, right. He's just I don't even need a bargaining chip now. I can just steal it and go. But he's a man of honor? Question mark?
Yeah, that's another great color. He has a moral code. Bounty hunters have moral codes.
Yeah,
right.
And he clearly has Mandalorian in him. So
sure.
So I was saying to Daniel that it kind of paints how we look at him in Empire Strikes Back differently. All we remember is him presiding over Han Solo getting frozen and then delivering him to Jabba the Hutt. But he truly doesn't have allegiances. It's just
a man doing his job.
The next job.
Yep.
So he agrees to help him, and this is where I freaked out and had to pat myself on the back because Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
They're happening.
That hardcore now.
We are getting an Avengers-style team-up.
Ooh.
More on that in a moment. But
Mhm.
so they fly to Navarro. We're back to Navarro.
Peter
On Slave
Navarro.
1. They're all flying on Slave 1 now. So Slave
Now the
1
ship.
is
Yeah.
now the ship, which is so friggin' great. So
Dope,
friggin'
dope,
great.
dope, 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 dope.
They fly to Navarro, and Mando goes to see Cara Dune,
Yep.
who is
she's
now
a
officially, we got an
New
answer,
Republic
is
Marshal.
now officially a
Yeah.
marshal.
Yeah, we were wondering what that medal was, and they're like, "Oh, here it is. This is."
So
what this
she's
medal
taken
is."
a serious job.
She literally got a badge.
And Mando says, asks for help and says, I'm looking for somebody in the prison directory. Can you help me find him? An ex-Imperial sharpshooter named Miggs Mayfield, Bill
Seen him
Burr,
before.
who we saw in
the heist. Yeah.
the heist episode in season 1. Avengers Assemble.
Yep.
He said, I'm looking for him to help me.
But also kind of like Suicide Squad-y a little bit.
Yeah,
Because like we need a bad guy in order to defeat the other bad guys. Yeah.
I'm putting together a crew to
Mhm.
to take down Gideon.
Yeah.
And Kara said, I love to help you, but there are rules now, and I can't just do this on a whim. And then he says, they've taken the child. And she looks at him.
He's like,
Yeah. She's
and
like,
you know
all
she's
right, what
in
are we
now,
doing?
too.
How are we making this happen?
Yep. She's like, well, no, yeah.
Right.
I mean, you know
Right.
that like I think anybody in the world currently, like if Baby Yoda was like if Grogu like existed in real life, I think
Absolutely.
that everybody would take up arms.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Grogu was in trouble.
You will-
100%.
You will have achieved world peace.
Yeah,
And we put
truly,
our
I think-
combined might.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to quote my dad again. I know I brought him up in the last episode too. He just finished season 1,
Oh wow.
and the quote was, "I love Baby Yoda more than anything in the world."
You're like, wait a minute, but like I'm your daughter.
More than me, apparently.
More than you, child.
I'm like, I can't argue with that.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, I can't.
I
argue
don't
with that
fault
either,
you.
honestly.
I
No,
yeah.
mm-mm.
yeah, I love him more than anything in the world.
It's
is what he said to
unbelievable.
me.
So we have the makings of
That's
a team.
relatable.
We have the makings, at least, of the start of a team. And I
Yep.
suspect there will be other members of this Avengers squad.
Oh,
Well, yeah, 'cause
yeah.
we've yet to meet this, potential Jedi that is going to come and be with Grogu.
Well,
you know, so.
and then we have Ahsoka out there possibly, and we
Well, and I
have-
say Jedi, and there is a slight chance that it could be somebody from the dark side too.
we've got Ahsoka.
Could
out.
be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I made a joke to myself because I was thinking about they've killed Maul off. He is like hella dead. But like they killed him off once. Maybe this time, instead of like a halved Maul, he'll come back as like a quarter Maul.
Oh, yeah, fourth Maul.
He'll still be,
oh no.
and each time he just gets like less and less of
Oh,
like
he's dead.
Like from the Lego special when it was just his
Right,
his
just
top
Oh my God,
half.
I
Like
adored
this
that.
time he's just like literally like half
Sliding
of
around. Oh
half
my
of
God.
his torso as well.
So great. But yeah.
And we did ask on the last episode if any of our listeners had any theories or thoughts about who could be potentially the Jedi to
Oh,
respond
yes.
to Grogu.
Yes.
And we did have Kurt Russell Hayden.
This is my good friend Kurt.
Yeah, he said, don't forget who could also show up, Mace Windu. We don't see him die. Plus, Samuel L. Jackson is besties with Jon Favreau. What if
That's
he
true.
shows up to train Grogu only to get killed by Boba Fett? Well, we know that probably is not going to happen anymore with Boba Fett, but
Yeah, right.
Mace Windu, whoa.
I believe I commented to Kurt that because Mace decapitated Boba's father, it's only right that Boba decapitates Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Samuel L.
Yes,
Jackson.
Well, actually, what you said is Boba slicing off Mace's head is what this year needs.
Yes.
Which, honestly,
Oh my gosh.
I have nothing
yes.
against Mace Windu. I just kind of think he's an
No.
ass.
Well,
I just
he
kind of
thinks he
want to
knows
see him
everything.
slice.
I kind of just want to see him
okay?
suffer because he didn't take Ahsoka seriously at their hour of need.
harumph. Yeah.
But that's for another day.
He got in his own way. But yeah, I that's the rule for really any franchise or movie or anything like that. Nobody, no death.
Yeah, and
Correct.
Samuel
We
Jackson has said over the years that he would love to come back, and that he's been telling
man.
George Lucas, he's been spamming Lucasfilm and George Lucas saying Mace is not dead, and you know this.
I love that.
You know this. But
Bring me
wow.
back. Bring back my purple saber.
Well,
They've been doing. I mean, like, they've been doing a lot of fan service, like, throughout this series, and to the point where you got to be a little careful about how much fan service you're doing, because then you're just like giving everybody what they want, and we know that too much of a good thing is too much. So. Not saying that I wouldn't want him back, because I think that'd be freaking dope as hell, but they got to do it the right way.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's super relevant. Well, to Boba's story, he is.
To Boba's story, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But Boba is still, as far as this series is concerned, is a side character. And
Right. But they would have to set that up, though, too. I mean, well, because, again, if we're getting The Mandalorian as, like, your very first taste of Star Wars, they've gotta somehow set that up, maybe that there is some kind of, or maybe they don't, I don't know, that you show that they have that history before they meet, you know what I mean? Because then when they meet, you're like, oh, they're having a moment together.
Right, and
The tension is high.
if the rumored Boba Fett series that's in development is actually a thing and is actually about Boba, I had read it's a prequel to Mandalorian, so
Got it.
Sure.
so
And
perhaps
maybe he's looking for Mace at that point or something. Yeah.
maybe. Anyway, that's not how the episode ends, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't.
Serious
So-
tangent.
Mace does not
but-
show up in this episode.
So we go aboard Gideon's cruiser, and there's Gideon looking all evil and stupid and dumb.
I hate that guy.
And he walks into a cell with a couple stormtroopers, and we see Grogu using the Force to absolutely clobber the two troopers in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I wanted to take enjoyment in it.
but it's a little spooky.
It's very spooky.
He's tapping into, well, one, we're seeing he is very powerful for
He's capable.
his age.
Uh-huh.
But the way he's using the Force, it almost looks like he's going in for a Force choke.
Well, it
Right.
was.
No,
It
but
was
he
very.
was.
It was
I mean,
very
it was
dark
very
side.
close. It was
Yeah.
very
I was
dark.
gonna-
And one of the
This is foreshadowing,
stormtroopers
for
moves
sure.
in. One of the stormtroopers moves in to stun him, and Gideon
Like, oh,
says,
no,
"No,
let him do it."
wait, let this play out." And it just becomes a sick experiment watching this kid just kind
like
of
playing with the toys almost.
right,
Yeah.
and
I mean, obviously, he's,
allowing
he
him
doesn't look-
to use his anger
Abilities
and
that way.
It's like
and
how
rage.
like kids play with action figures, you know.
And so he stops, and then he's all tuckered out,
Poor little bugger.
Aw,
and-
and his little wheezing.
yeah, just exhausted. And Gideon goes, "Oh, that makes you so sleepy," and
Ugh.
that's a shame. I'm like, "Oh, I hate
him so much.
I hate you so much." And then he pulls out the dark saber and ignites it and shows it to the child. And it's like, "You
seen one
recognize
of
these
these?"
from a long time ago?" And you see the child attempting to use the Force to either take it from him or push it back. I'm not quite sure
Mhm.
which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just struggling, and he said, Gideon says, "You're not ready.
You're not ready for this.
to wield something like this."
Which again, potential foreshadowing.
He said, "How about a nice long sleep?"
Could you imagine, just for a moment, little baby lightsabers? Just little.
Don't give him a lightsaber.
If they do, it has to be enormous and like 17 times too big.
Right. It's
So
basically a
funny.
spear.
That's the only way
Yeah,
it would
right,
be acceptable.
It's a spear in his hand. So then they stun him. They put Grogu in handcuffs.
In the most adorable little handcuffs you've ever seen.
And leave him there passed out. And as Gideon's leaving the room, he turns to his senior officer and says, "Once we're out of hyperspace, send a transmission to Dr. Pershing and tell him we have our donor."
Yeah. Send a DM to my good friend.
And then the episode ends with a view of Baby Yoda's
We have a
stunned
donor. We have a donor for what?
Ugh. That was horrible.
And that's where they will leave
That was
us
tragic.
for a week.
That was tragic, truly.
That was a
tragic
I hate him.
day.
I hate him so much.
yeah.
He's so evil.
he's filling me with
Oh
rage.
my gosh.
So, knowing all this, I mean, like we've only got 2 more episodes left, and if we know the show well enough, it feels like it's gonna be like a part 1 and a part 2. Maybe. I mean, like, how are they gonna wrap this up? I mean, is it gonna wrap up with them successfully getting him back, or are they gonna leave us on our? I mean, whoa! Would
If
that
they
be
left
a
us
crazy
for a
trip?
year with Baby
With
Yoda's
him,
fate in
no.
doubt,
I'll never forgive them for that.
there will be riots in the streets, and I will be leading them.
Yeah, I'll never forgive
Yeah,
them
it
for
would
that,
be really
especially
intense.
I
right
will-
now in this time in the world. If that is what we're left with,
I'll burn
Oh
it
my
all
God.
down.
Yeah.
I'll burn it all down.
Well, and here's the other thing too, like, but yeah, I think as a series, they probably are. I mean, like, you know, they're monetarily wise, they probably can't kill Grogu off.
They absolutely will not.
Yeah, I feel like they can't do that. That being said, it would be like the most ballsy. That would be a very Game of Thronesy crazy
No.
thing that they. Like,
we're not the
I'm
same
not.
kind of Game of Thrones people and
It is not that show.
Mandalorian people are not the same. I mean,
Well,
no,
there's
present company
crossover.
excluded, but-
Y'all watched both, but no.
right. It would
I'd-
be.
I'll say
it would
this,
be the
I
most
don't-
devastating thing to
I
happen
do-
on television, though,
I don't.
for sure.
I have no desire for that.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
it won't. It
same.
won't even bring me joy in the sense like, wow, the show went there. I'll just be angry.
Yeah. it would-
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's kind of my point. Is I'm thinking that if they, but I guess they're going to be my imagination is going to that they are going to be successful in their experiment. They're going to be able to extract whatever they needed
Enough.
from the child,
Yeah.
but like just enough so that he's not completely dead, but like almost dead.
My
then-
concern is the child going to the dark side. Not even
Yeah.
from even Gideon meddling with him, but the long game on this
Sure.
kid is that we have now seen he's
Well,
impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're dealing with. I mean, in all of the Star Wars, you know, sagas, this is like showing you maybe potentially what trauma does to people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, and you know how you deal with trauma, and yeah.
What's
really
interesting though is that you're
implications.
not going to see him grow up very much
Mm-mm.
Right.
at all. I mean, because he's 50 years old, he's still a toddler.
Unless, I mean, we all know that they are developing more films. If we got like a super flash forward and like we got an older version of Grogu, maybe.
Yeah, it'd have to be a
It
couple
would have to
hundred
be a
years.
super duper flash
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Be very interesting.
Oh,
you could have there might be an epilogue someday
Yeah.
where
Well, we know that Dave Filoni is very capable of epilogues that
he's
are
really good at
far in the
epilogues.
future. Oh
He's
yeah,
fine.
we didn't discuss that in the last episode. So, sort of this isn't a correction corner, but like, I stole that phrase from My Favorite Murder. I can't.
Well, you
I
shouldn't
can't
steal.
stop
take credit for
stealing.
that. Correction corner. But when we were talking about the timeline of this this show and the very last episode. Well, actually, not even the last episode.
The epilogue of Rebels.
The epilogue of Rebels. Yes. Whether or not that took place before or after The Mandalorian. Like at least before this last episode, or actually at the end of the last episode, we assumed that Rebels happened before.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
and Dave
Filoni
Filoni.
has said like, you need to stop thinking so linear. Like
Yes.
the timeline
he
can be and will
Which means
be
they're-
all over the place.
Well,
Right.
which means they're figuring it
Yeah.
out. It,
Correct.
it will be
Exactly
set in
right.
stone, but they have not. Depending on what the other series look like what
I
the
think
Rebels
you're
sequel
absolutely right
series
about that.
looks like, they haven't
Mhm.
decided how best it lines up
Yeah,
yet. That's how
that's
I read
fair.
that.
Totally. But it's cool that it could go both ways.
Yes.
Totally. And it's a
And
very
I'll buy
tantalizing
I'll
thing.
buy either because
Totally.
if you buy the argument that it's if that epilogue is after Mandalorian, I'd buy it because we see Sabine looking out on Lothal, and it's built into these giant skyscrapers where only a couple years before there was nothing there.
Kind of podunk, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would actually think it would take a while for them to develop like that. So I would buy that the epilogue is a long time after the beginning of Rebels, and therefore
at least like not 5 years, but like maybe 10 or 15
right.
years.
And maybe that epilogue takes place 5 years after Mandalorian.
Sure.
Or, you know.
Which again could explain the difference in length of her
hair.
head tentacles.
Well, I don't think there's a
I don't think
explanation
that's
other
it.
than
I think
stunts.
they just said that like
I know,
she can't
I'm being
do this.
facetious, really, but
She can't do everything she
But
needs to do.
people
with
still don't accept that.
enormous tentacles wrapping around her waist and crotch.
Even a week later, people don't accept it.
No.
And I'm like,
isn't that why
You're idiots.
Anakin called her Snips? Isn't that like why they call isn't that because of that they call those tentacles, like they nickname them Snips? Am I crazy?
thought so. I actually don't remember. I feel like I should know that.
They
but
call them snips.
Like it was
I
sort of a
read the
derogatory term, but he
Ahsoka,
turned it into like
novel,
a cute term of
and I don't
endearment, like,
remember.
"Hey, Snips."
her nickname, I don't remember why she is called Snips.
Oh God, I just got chills because I thought about because we all are just dreaming and hoping that this happens, but like Anakin's return to the world in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a flashback or maybe a Force ghost or something like that, but just hear him saying, "Hey, Snips," to Ahsoka. Oh my God, I would cry. I would cry.
If any rumors about the Obi-Wan series are true, we'll see flashbacks with live action Ahsoka and Anakin.
I just looked it up. Anakin, in a lot of their interactions, he kept saying that she was like snippy with him, so that's why she called him Snips. He called her Snips.
Yeah, that makes sense because she was a total
Right, she was strong-willed
She called
as a
him
young
Sky Guy.
Yep, that makes sense. There you go.
Yeah.
She should have called
Has
him
nothing
Darth
to do
Vader.
with her anatomy.
Sky Guy's a stupid
I
name.
may be snippy, but you're gonna murder the youngling, so
You.
so there's that.
Yep.
Awkward.
But yeah, going back to those timelines, it is interesting because then that kind of puts into perspective why is Ahsoka specifically asking for Thrawn right now?
Right.
And has he already been
it does
found?
change
We talked
whether or
about
not-
it. Has he been found already, or
Yeah.
and
does,
why would
does
this?
she know
and
that
would
Ezra's
I
still
mean,
there?
if this woman is working for him and maybe building ships for him, that means Ezra's probably already been found, or at least Thrawn found his way back, or
Right.
it's just very.
Oh wow.
I think either way, it's seemingly like, at least in the Mandalorian world, it feels like Thrawn is definitely. I don't know if he's necessarily firing at all cylinders, but he's definitely around.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, another thing that we were sort of talking about too was the possibility that he is working independent of the Empire
As a chiss.
Yeah,
As a member of his own people as opposed to the Empire. Yeah, it's very
which,
possible.
Very cool implications as well.
I don't know if they'll address that in Mandalorian, or like we said, it could very well be
that could absolutely
addressed
be its
elsewhere.
own show. And I'd almost prefer it too, just because like that's seemingly such a huge like pivot in the whole storyline that it deserves its to be explained in its full depth.
Well, I'll be very curious if Gideon makes it out of this season alive.
Sure. Well,
because if he does, that'll tell you he's the guy
he's the big
going
baddie
forward.
or not.
Yeah.
If not, then your imagination can run wild. And
yeah, are you a Snoke or are you an Emperor? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We'll find out.
Good God,
Wow.
what an episode!
Oh my God, we only have
Only
2 more
two more.
episodes.
Oh, that makes me so sad.
It does. And then we have to wait a whole year.
They're going to be lengthy. That's my prediction. I have no knowledge.
I
but
hope they're
gonna
lengthy.
They've got some stuff to answer for.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Ain't that the
man.
truth?
That was a doozy.
A doozy indeed.
Yeah, to drop your theories in the comments.
Yeah,
Send
honestly,
us an email.
like we love it when you guys comment. It really, adds to the depth of our conversation.
DM. You can reach us on Twitter.
Shout out to Kurt again. Thank you for.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for your input. I hope Mace returns and is summarily executed by Boba. I'm putting that out there into the universe.
Actually, I should ask this question because I think Kurt would find it funny. And I'm sure he's listening right now.
Right now?
But-
Even before we've released this
Yeah.
episode?
Yeah,
Oh my
right now. Yeah,
gosh.
he has a live feed. I didn't tell you that.
Omniscient, all-knowing.
He's a very,
Yeah, he's
very
very special.
serious fan.
Now, this is a random question. Would you rather have a poop dick or a poop mouth?
Nope.
No, why
No?
would we
Nope,
need
we're not
to
doing that.
talk about
You're not
that?
gonna answer that question?
Not even going to dignify it.
Oh, come on,
You
guys.
can think about it yourself later when you're tucking yourself into bed.
Do not respond in the
No,
comments
please.
with your answers to that question. That
That's
was not
not-
for any of you listening
No.
to this.
Yeah, no, everybody, please message me
Yeah.
privately.
So, anyways, this is
and
Daniel's
I'll-
last time on the podcast, and
we are trading him to Moff Gideon for the child.
No. All right, I'll save Baby Yoda. I'll do it.
No, it's a trade.
Trade.
It's a
Just
straight
a
trade.
straight trade.
They would. I also had to pay them several $1 million to agree to that, but or credits, excuse me.
Wow, I didn't know he was so
Credits.
rich.
I didn't either. I took out a loan
A reverse mortgage.
to save the child. I've ruined my finances.
Wow. All right. Well, that was Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 14. Thanks for
Oh.
listening. This is Inside the Tauntaun, a Star Wars podcast. And we'll be back next week for Chapter 15.
Yas Queen.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening.
end
We
is nigh.
appreciate you. Drop us a comment. Leave us a
I know.
love letter. Give us a little rating.
Maybe guys some 5
Yeah,
stars
give us a-
on Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
Give us some love if you have some.
Like
yeah.
and subscribe.
Yes. I'm Alyssa Simmons.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino Nicandros.
May the force be with you.
Always.
See ya.